Stay tuned to find out what comics I picked up at the Secret Lair. Welcome back, comic book fans. This is Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and in today's video we are going to go over comics that I picked up on my trip to Harrisonburg, Virginia, where I stopped at the Secret Lair. Now, this is a shop that I've been to before. In fact, I've been to several times, but it's under new ownership. The new owner's name is Chris, and I got to meet him on not just one trip, but on two trips over the last 2 weekends. I was fortunate enough to be able to make it down, and I stopped both times, and I ended up picking up keys from both trips, and I was pretty excited about some of these books. Some of these books I've had on my PC in the past, and some of them I'm definitely looking forward to actually having in my PC, and possibly getting them graded and sending them to CGC. But before I do that, guys, hit that like button, slap the subscribe, and definitely hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on episodes just like this one each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Okay, guys, let's get into the books. Alright guys, so I ended up picking up several books from the Secret Lair, and I ended up, as I said, I stopped on two different trips over the last couple weekends as I was making my way to and from my place in West Virginia. And again, they ended up having some nice books. I was able to do a little research before I went in there. They had a little bit of social media presence, and they had some photos of some nice keys on the wall. And I wanted to, with the opportunity, to stop to see what they had left and see what the prices were. And I ended up finding some nice books. Some of these are ones I'm going to speculate on, and hopefully they're in good enough condition to get to CGC. One of them in particular, in fact, the first book I'm going to show here is definitely in really nice shape, but I'm going to intend to send this into the J. Scott Campbell signing at CGC later this year. It's going to be in October. So let me just go ahead and start. We'll start with the first book here. It is Gen 13, and this is one of the two books that I honestly think of when I think of J. Scott Campbell. He's done so many great things, but the two things I think of him first when I think of him is I think of Gen 13 and I think of Danger Girl. Now, they didn't have any Danger Girl copies at the store, but they definitely had a #1 issue here of Gen 13. This came out in February of 1994. And it was written by Jim Lee. I think it's actually a Jim Lee creation, but J. Scott Campbell did the artwork on this. And as a 9.8 unsigned, the most recent value on this is something about like $118. And now this is in really nice shape, and I'm looking to get this graded. But I'm thinking about getting this graded and signed by J. Scott Campbell and putting it into the PC. Now, the second book definitely caught my eye, only because I've been picking up a few more DCs recently, and in fact I picked up the issue right after this at one of the comic shops up here in Baltimore. This is Green Lantern number 48, and this right here is the first appearance of Kyle Rayner. It's in cameo on the last page, but it is his first appearance, and this book also has some nice value if you can pull that 9.8. Again, this is roughly around that $118 to $119 mark. It just sold for that last June. When I say last June, last month in June of this year. So it's got some nice value, and honestly, I wouldn't have picked it up if it had any kind of defects on it, because I'm not interested on a modern book like that unless it is in near perfect condition. And I'm interested in that 9.8. Now, this is a book I'm going to completely speculate on, and hopefully this one will turn out really well once I get it into the shop. Now, the third book is one that has a lot more spec value currently, only because of James Gunn and the new DCU, and it is The Authority #1. This is a book I've never had, but I have read this in trade paperback form. Wonderful Brian Hitch artwork, and this is a book that I'd like to get it into CGC sooner than later. We haven't had any news coming out of the DCU and James Gunn about The Authority too much, other than it's one of the intended projects. So I'd like to get this in here. This looks like a really nice copy, and I will tell you, 9.8s on this run around $439. That was the most recent sale on eBay back here in June. Now, even a 9.6 is going to have some value, especially when the news and we actually get some word that there is a production going on with The Authority. So that was a nice book. But then I ended up getting into the rest of these books, and these are all mixed up. I didn't separate this into the first trip and the second trip, but I did get some really nice books here that not only do I want in my PC, in fact, I have in my PC. It's books that I will continue to speculate on. It's the double-edged sword. This is one of those things where I will add value to the PC by having it in the PC, and if I want to sell it. Either way, it's going to be really good. Let me just show you the first one right here. This is Airboy number 5. And the significance of this is it is the Dave Stevens cover, much sought after, of the character Valkyrie right here. Now these were Golden Age characters, Airboy, Valkyrie, and they, back in the 80s, in fact this came out in September of 1986. This is the revitalization of those characters on Eclipse Comics. You had Chuck Dixon doing the writing on these. And I've got this in the PC right now. In fact, I probably have it already pulled to possibly press, but this was a pretty good price on this, and I decided to go ahead and get another copy just to go ahead and get it into the shop as well. So, can't go wrong with Dave Stevens' Good Girl art. Much like the next issue right here, and also from Eclipse Comics, you've got DNA Agents, and you've got this definitely Good Girl art on the cover right here. And I saw this in the case, and I'm going, okay, I don't even have to look up values on this or anything. But in fact, let me give you value. Let's go back one sec. Let's talk about the Airboy value. Why am I speculating on that? Sorry, I skipped right over that. 9.8s on this can go as high as $275. That was the most recent high I saw back in June, again on eBay. And $275 for that is pretty good. That means you still have a little bit of meat in the bone if you happen to get a 9.6. But you also, now this one doesn't have, actually this one does have, if you can get a 9.8 on this DNA Agents, you actually have a lot more value. Again, back in June, the most recent sale on this was $363. Now, as I said previously, you cannot go wrong with Dave Stevens' artwork. These are some of his prime examples. These are classic Dave Stevens. Most common grade on this, though, is a 9.6, and even that sells for about $113. So that gives me a little bit of hope, especially with this black cover over here, that just in case there's a tick and it knocks it down, because I remember Eclipse Comics didn't have the best paper at the time. We'll see how these press out, but man, if I can get that 9.8, that's a really nice, valuable book right there. All right, next book on the list. Let's set these down for a second. And this was a freebie because on the first day, I remember I got this on a Saturday, the owner, Chris, actually threw this into the order. He gave me a pretty good deal on everything, but he threw this one in. It is a copy of A-Team, and this came out in March of 1984. Of course, you got the classic Mr. T and the rest of the A-Team there. And this is a really nice copy. Now, I didn't bother to look these values up in the shop. In fact, the first day that I was in the shop, it was about 10 minutes to 6, and they were getting ready to close. And I stepped in, poked my head in. There was a couple customers in there with the owner, and I said, "Hey, are you still open for about another 10 minutes?" And he said, "Yeah, but you can come on in. And don't worry, it's like, if you want to keep looking, that's fine. He'll stay around." But then he said, "Hey, I know you. Like, you're on YouTube." And so he ended up recognizing me from the channel. So he definitely is watching that. So Chris, this is my show. This is my shout out to you and to your shop, and wish you all the best luck. And I will continue to stop down there. But you had some really nice books, and I appreciated my time on both my visits over the last couple of weeks stopping in there. But Chris threw in this book on the first order when I was on there on the first trip down. And this is a really nice, sharp copy. And there seems to be a lot of value being placed on a lot of these, I don't want to say B-tier books, but these kind of books where they weren't part of the mainstream. They were adaptations of the TV shows or movies and things like that. But I went ahead and got it just because of the condition. And it was a $5 price tag on there to begin with. So can't really go wrong with that no matter how you go. But surprisingly, if you can pull a 9.8 on this, A most recent sale on that was $326. It was the best offer, so it wasn't quite $326. But that happened back in May of this year on eBay. 9.6s, however, dropped down to about $84. That was the most recent sale now, but I've seen sales just a few days prior to that went up to about $150. So there's definitely a range, and there's, again, meat on the bone for a book like this. But this is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure I have this in the PC. I was getting all kinds of books back in the mid 80s, and I'm pretty sure I have this, but it would take me a while to find it. But it was nice to find a really good copy at the Secret Lair. All right, so then we get into what's becoming a new hot collectible thing for me right now. And I am, as you've noticed over the last few weeks, since Comic-Con, I've been getting into a little bit more Silver Age DC Comics, and I'm not going all over the place, but right now my interest lies in the Justice League of America, but specifically their crossovers with the Justice Society of America. And Chris had a whole stack of really nice Justice League books, and I went through them, and I ended up getting this one right here. It's a really nice shape. This is issue number, what is this? This is 56. And when I look at books like this, one, it's got my interest because it's got the JSA, which I just adore. I love the JSA stories. But I also buy on condition. And this right here was a super sharp copy, and I'm looking forward to getting this into the shop. I'm going to give you some values on this. Most common grade on issue number 56 of the JLA is $264. Again, another sale back in June of this year. But if you could pull a 9.8, and this is not going to pull a 9.8, but because they're pretty rare. The most recent sale I saw on this was back in 2016, went for just under $1,200 on Heritage Auctions. So who knows what it would be today. That's a long time to not see a 9.8 on the market, and I'm sure if you saw one today, that thing would probably, I would dare say that it would probably double the price at that point. But we'll see what we can do in this. We'll get it in the shop, we'll clean and press it, we'll get it ready to go, and we'll take a shot, and we'll see what we end up getting on that. But the last book I got was something that I never had this particular copy. I think my cousin did. I remember he was my same age as me, and I think he had this one because I've read it before. But I grew up in the early 70s, first reading comics and everything, and one of the things that we used to get all the time were the Marvel Treasuries. And let me show you what I got. I ended up getting this right here. It's Captain America's Bicentennial Battles. And I never had this one. As I said, I had definitely read this. My cousin had it. I don't know if he still does or not, but you've got this Jack Kirby cover and Jack Kirby artwork in there. And honestly, I don't even remember what's inside. I'm sure it's all Jack Kirby, but I'm going to be interested to read this. Now, this is something you can't get graded. It's too big, but it is nicely bagged and board, and it's in really good shape. And about the only prices I can give you now is about what I paid for this. This is about a $20 item. It ranges in a near mint right now, range between $20 and $40, but I've also seen books a little bit less than that go for even $30 to $40. So it depends on your desire. If you really want this in your PC, these are hard to store because boxes, they're too big for boxes, and it's very rare that you can find the bags and boards for this. And Chris told me he took some time to find a bag and board that would fit this. But this is in really nice shape, and it's a really fun pickup. Sometimes I just buy comics because I want them in my PC, and this is pretty cool. So those were all the books I ended up picking up on both of my trips to the Secret Lair over the last couple weeks. Alright guys, so that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this comic book haul, and I hope you guys get a chance to visit the Secret Lair. This is in Harrisonburg, Virginia. You can look them up on Google and end up going right there. But let me know what you think about these books by leaving me a comment in the comment section below. And if you're ever interested in any of the books that I feature on the channel, definitely reach out to me on Instagram, DM me there, or email me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com. You can always check out what books I currently have for sale by going to my eBay store or visit my short box page. So that's it. Enough of the sales pitch. I'm out of here, guys. Enjoy the show, enjoy your day, and I will see you for the next one. And remember, every comic has a story.